And welcome back to another podcast with Mr. Hagan. On the last podcast we were discussing how to calculate marginal benefits and marginal costs. Marginal benefits and total benefits. On this podcast, we are now going to add the marginal costs and the total cost. Because remember, it is our belief that as economists that decisions are made on the margin, so we are going to pay attention to marginal benefits and marginal costs when we make decisions. And so what we had set up on the previous podcast is some person was deciding how many Cokes they're going to buy. And we calculated their marginal benefit of each Coke, and that was suffering from diminishing marginal utility. Each additional unit gave them less happiness than the previous. And then we use that to calculate the total benefits. So now we want to look at the cost side. So we know how much the person likes the Cokes. That information is captured here. What is it going to cost them if they go purchase the Coke? So here's the way we want to think about it. Let's imagine that that they're going to buy the Coke from a vending machine, and let's say it costs $1 per Coke. So we would say the marginal cost of the first Coke is $1. Why did I say that? Well, remember that margin means additional or one more. So that one more, that additional Coke, costs $1. What's the total cost if this person buys one Coke? The total cost would be, well, $1. Now, what if they want to buy a second Coke? Well, if they want to buy a second Coke, the first Coke cost them $1. The second Coke will cost them what? Well, all by itself, just that marginal second cost, or second Coke, will cost them $1. What's the total cost so far? Buying two Cokes will cost $1 for the first one, $2 for the second one. There's your total cost, is $2. How about Coke number 3? Coke number 3, if they want to buy a third Coke, same thing. The marginal cost for just the third Coke by itself, $1. Total cost, $3. And then finally, Coke number 4, same concept. Marginal cost of the fourth Coke, $1. Total cost would then be $4. So notice this. Notice that the margin is always a change in the total. So the marginal benefits is a change in the total benefits, right? So here the marginal benefit was $3. Second Coke, or for the second Coke, goes $2. Why? There's the change in the total benefits. Okay, the change in total benefits was 2, which is the margin. Same thing on the cost side. The marginal cost is the change in the total cost. Change in the total cost was 1. There it is. Change in the total cost was 1. There it is. Change in the total cost was 1. There it is. Okay, so mathematically, the margin is just the change in the total. All right, so how's this person now going to decide how many Cokes to purchase? Well, they're going to make that decision on the margin. So let's calculate, first of all, net happiness and see how this making decisions on the margin will lead to utility maximization. I'll come back to that concept in a second. So net happiness, let's calculate net happiness. Net happiness is calculated by taking the total benefits minus the total costs. So if he buys one Coke, the net happiness will be 3 minus 1. His net happiness will be $2. If he buys two Cokes, his net happiness will be 5 minus 2. That's 3. It'll be $3. If he buys 3 Cokes, his net happiness will be 6 minus 3. $3. If he buys the fourth Coke, his net happiness will be $6.50 minus 4, be $2.50. Each time I just took the total benefits minus the total costs. So notice what happens. Coke number 4, his net happiness actually goes down if he buys it. Okay? Why is that? It's because people make decisions on the margin. Again, I'll come back to that concept a little bit later. What is the person's ultimate goal? Remember from an earlier video, the goal is to maximize utility, to maximize net happiness. What I really mean by maximize utility, well, I just said it. Maximize utility means to maximize your net happiness. So if you want to maximize your net happiness, well, then you want to buy 3 Cokes. Okay? Now you could say 2, and I'll show you a little bit later why we would say 3 instead of 2. All right? So the real goal here is to maximize net happiness, which is maximizing utility, and that happens at Coke number 3. That happens at Coke number 3. Why? What happened to Coke number 3? Because at Coke number 3, the marginal benefits are equal to the marginal cost. The marginal benefits are equal to the marginal cost. So here comes our rules. Very quickly. Our rules for behavior simply say this. Whenever the marginal benefits are greater than the marginal cost, do it. Coke number 1. Do I buy Coke number 1? Yes. Why? Because the marginal benefits are greater than the marginal cost for the first Coke. I get $3 of benefits if I drink it, and I only have to pay $1 for it. Do I do it? Yes, I do. Coke number 2. Do I do it? Yes, I do. Why? Because the marginal benefit is greater than the marginal cost. I get $2 of benefits, and I only have to pay $1 for it. Coke number 3. What do? Well, marginal benefit equals the marginal cost. Wherever the marginal benefit equals the marginal cost, that's where we stop. Okay? That's how many we buy. So at that point, we are what we call the economic term that we will use is we will say we are indifferent. I am indifferent about Coke number 3. Okay? Why? Well, I get $1 benefits if I buy it, but I also have to give up $1 to get it. So yeah, I don't really care either way. That's where we stop. And then finally, Coke number 4, the marginal costs are greater than the marginal benefit. Whenever that happens, then we say, don't do it. You don't engage in the behavior. So for Coke number 4, you only get 50 cents of happiness, but you got to pay $1 for it. The marginal cost over here, 1, is greater than the marginal benefits, so you don't do it. So what's our rule for behavior? Our rule for behavior is simply this. You engage in a behavior up to the point that the marginal benefit equals the marginal cost. And that's where you stop. That tells us how many Cokes to buy. So this person would buy 3 Cokes where the net happiness utility is maximized. And we'll talk more about that on the next video where we will graph the marginal benefits and marginal costs. This has been Mr. Hagan on another Econ podcast. We'll see you on the next podcast.